The Prodigals Club is the greatest game ever made. Now, I'm not going to pretend like the game doesn't have any flaws. It can be hard to teach. It's kind of convoluted and confusing. The setup and takedown is rough. The board shape is really weird and it's kind of upside down for a lot of different people. It's a table hog. This is only one of potentially 5 player setups, and the theme doesn't really make any sense, but it's the greatest game ever made. At least for me. This is you in the comments.
False.
It's not the greatest game ever made, you lie! But it is the greatest game ever made. To me, and for me. Taste is subjective, and any game can be someone's favorite. In fact, every game is someone's favorite. Distilled is someone's favorite. Fife is someone's favorite. Dead Reckoning is someone's favorite. Saying that something is the greatest game ever made and saying it's the greatest game ever made for me are two different things. And you can acknowledge that something is great, even a masterpiece, that you just don't particularly enjoy. Sometimes you can even say something is objectively bad, and that won't change the fact that it might be someone's favorite. My favorite movie, unironically, is Con Air, which is a mediocre movie, like, at best. But that doesn't matter because it's still my favorite. With that being said, I do think that this is a great game, a really solid, good game. It's not flawless, but it is my favorite. And that's what this video is going to be about. I just want to talk about my favorite game. This isn't going to be a review. You want a review? Here's a review. It's good. I like the game. Obviously, it's my favorite. There's your review. So to start off, we're gonna talk about the theme, because theme is king. I'm just gonna pop in here real quick to say that this video is very, very different than really anything we've ever done on our channel. So if you're enjoying it and you wanna see more, please like the video, comment down below, subscribe, and most importantly, share it around. It really does help a lot. So please like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff, and comment down below. Appreciate it. As we talk about the theme of Prodigals Club, I wanna briefly talk about Last Will. Last Will is kind of a prequel to the Prodigals Club. In Last Will, you have a rich uncle who has died, and they're gonna leave their inheritance to whoever is the poorest of all of their nieces and nephews. So you are trying to blow all of your money. You're trying to buy high and sell low and just plow through all your money so that you are the poorest, so that you get all of the inheritance for yourself. So the Prodigals Club is like that, but way, way more. And I'm gonna have to be honest with you right now and say that the Prodigals Club theme doesn't really make any sense. I mean, it makes more sense than that kindergarten cop musical I tried to make. It's not a tumor. You suck. I don't know why that didn't take off. In the Prodigals Club, you're just trying to be the worst person ever. You're basically trying to be Erebus. 40K joke. You're just trying to be the worst person ever. You are not only trying to lose your money just like Last Will, you are also trying to lose all of your friends and lose an election. And why you're doing this doesn't really make that much sense. It's kind of just like, it's fun to be bad. They're kind of like, you're like these rich socialites, and like you're bored with being rich, so you're just gonna be bad for a while.
How can I be a bastard today?
And that's really fun, but it doesn't really make sense. But that doesn't matter because it's fun. So to reiterate, you are trying to lose all your money, lose all your friends, and lose an election because you're bored and rich, I guess. So the board is set up into these 3 kind of like triads, these 3 modules, and they each represent a different part of the game, where you're trying to lose all your money, lose all your friends, and lose an election. And I won't lie that the setup for this game is a lot. Each of these different modules has its own cards and its own little bits, and all of those have to be shuffled separately and then stacked together. It's a pain. But as my dominatrix was telling me, you love pain, don't you? I don't think I can say that. So as we talked about, Prodigals Club is broken down into these 3 kind of separate games, and they really are separate games. It's like having 3 mini games in one game, and there isn't any mixing at all between the various modules. So the cards and the tokens that deal with the election only allow you to lose votes. They never allow you to lose votes and lose some money. And at the end of the game, you will get a separate score for all 3 of the modules, and you want a low score in all 3 of them. Because at the end of the game, whatever your worst score is amongst the 3 modules, that's your score for the game. And again, you want low scores, you do not want high scores. So at the end of the game, if you have 0 votes and 0 friends, but $50, your score is 50, and you're probably gonna lose. You need to do everything equally, and it can be hard to figure out where to start because the board is sprawling, and as I said, it's kind of confusing to look at, a little bit convoluted, but you need to do all 3 of them by the end of the game, so just pick one and start there. The game takes place over 5 rounds, and each round has 2 phases. You will have the worker placement phase, where you will place your workers out onto the board, and then you have the card action phase, where you will activate the cards that you have gotten during the worker placement phase. Your workers, by the way, are these little top hats, these little errand boys.
Oh, errand boy.
What?
Go lower my standing in society.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, my lord would like to convey the message to you. F*** off! Errand boys are how you gain the cards at the various boards and how you do these actions. After the worker placement phase, players in turn order will play and use any of the cards that they want to. There are 2 different kinds of cards. There are these kind of wine-colored cards that have that blue background, and these cards will go into your tableau here, and then there are white one-time use cards that you'll use and then discard. Cards on your tableau that have things on the bottom are just ongoing abilities, but if they have something at the top, you can tap them once per turn to do that ability. These will then reset, and every single turn you can use these, and if you have white cards, you can play as many of them on your turn as you want. So as stated, each module has its own thing. So let's go through all of them individually, starting with the money side of the game is the easiest to grasp in my opinion, especially if you're familiar with Last Will. You start the game with money and more importantly, with possessions. Each board in the game will have action spots that you can send your errand boys to and then cards that you can get as well. And many of these cards will have the same actions that are on the board, like this action here, which is sell possessions, and then this card here, which allows you to sell possessions. And this is important because on the board, there are only 2 spots where you can sell possessions, and you need to get rid of all of them, but so does everyone else. And that unfortunately brings us to the elephant in the room with this game, and that is how it scales. And the game scales great. The elephant loves it here. It loves this room, ya frickin' butts. Sorry about that. Yeah, the game scales great. I've played it at all player counts, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it's wonderful. Sure, the game starts to get a little bit long at 4 and 5, but I don't really blame the game with that because it joins this not at all comprehensive list of games that are just way longer at higher player counts, but aren't really better gaming experiences, so just play them at 2 or 3. But talking about scaling, there are some spots that are marked off on the board for lower player counts. Each board has a 2 to 3 and 4 to 5 player side to scale the game, so the game scales just fine. So with that out of the way, let's talk about money. There are 2 main actions in the money module. There are exchanging your possessions for other ones and then selling them. In the game, you want to exchange your better possessions for worse ones, and then you want to sell them for cold hard cash so that you can then spend that cash and get rid of it. It is very difficult to go to a place and try to use a possession as payment.
Hey man, what's up dude? Hey, can I exchange this horse for 17 Slim Jims? What?
So in order to get the lowest sale price for your possessions, you should exchange them first. The exchange actions generally have an exchange rate, like this one is -3. So if I turn this chef, which is 6, into this chef, which is 2, that is an exchange rate of 4, so I will have to take an extra coin to pay for that. And then you can go to one of the 2 sale spots here to then sell those possessions. And in this spot here, you get to sell it for $1 less. And this little wheel here shows that if the possession you're selling matches the borough it's pointing to, you get it for 1 less. So we sell this one for 1 less, and this $2 chef is free, baby. Take him. I don't want him. Also note that certain cards you may have, like your friend from Westminster here, shows that whenever you sell a blue borough possession, you can sell it for 2 less. So now we have some money, and we gotta spend that money, and your cards are a great way to do that. You may have cards on your tableau here, like your valet, that just allows you to spend a coin. Your broker here allows you to make a sale at a $2 discount. And then maybe you can go to a fitting or go to the ball to spend some more cash. And the money module has these special cards called A Little More Time. And with some of these cards, you can also discard these cards to spend a little more time doing that thing. So I could turn in this card to go to the ball and then turn in 2 more Any More Time cards and spend even more money. Because the ball has been closed for an hour, but I'm still out there like... And many of the cards will have these kind of symbols up at the top where you can lose money, votes, or maybe even some friends for every one of these symbols that you have. And these symbols represent high society and the things that rich people love, like alcoholism, knife fights, safe cracking, BDSM, all the greats. And these symbols can come from your possessions, where your friends are on the social board, or from these political tiles. So when we tap the reserve box card, we will lose $1 for every drink icon we have and $1 for every theater icon we have. And these symbols are a tough part of the game to manage, because if you have a symbol on a possession, but then you sell that possession, well, you don't have that symbol anymore. And that is a tough puzzle to constantly have to balance and shift. So that is money. Exchange your possessions, sell those possessions, and then blow all that cash on some dumb stuff. At the end of the game, your score for money will be how much cash you have plus the sell value of your possessions, except for your possessions are $3 more at the end of the game, so you really need to get them sold. Now, money is great, but political power is better, so let's fail at that too. It's time to lose some votes. Now it's time to lose an election. Everyone starts off the game pretty popular, and your votes are counted on this weird little triangle board that kind of slots in between all the modules, and you will start with a certain amount of votes depending on the amount of players in the game. This is the most card-driven of all the modules. As you can see, there are more cards here than there were in the money module, so you'll be getting more and playing more cards from here than the other 2 modules. And this module is all about being loud, and that is really shown in this megaphone space right here. You're just getting a megaphone, trying to annoy as many people as humanly possible. At the end of the round, whoever has the most megaphones will lose a bunch of votes, and actually whoever has the least megaphones, the quietest person, will actually gain votes, because people are like, God, that other person's just so loud. I'm gonna vote for this person just because the other person's so annoying.
Ooh, I lost 8 votes. Delicious.
And many of these spaces will also give you these political circle tiles, these little green tiles. And when you get one of these, you'll put it in your little political circle, and you're trying to match those symbols. Whenever you make 2 matches, like these 2 mansions here, you then have one of those mansion symbols, just like it was on a possession. And I'm gonna be real with you. Can I be real with, can I be real with you? Can I please just be real with you? Thank you, jeez. I'll be real with you. This is my least favorite part of the game. Look, it's not like it's a bad part of the game. It's still just fine. It's just my least favorite. I find these little political tiles to be like the least interesting. They're kind of plain and green. I get it from a thematic standpoint, right? Like you're making political ties, and that gives you access to these various symbols, because now you have like a friend in real estate or whatever, right? I get it. It's just, it feels the most mechanical, I suppose I could say. It feels like the most mechanical part of the game that's the least thematically integrated, and it kind of just feels there because they needed to have these symbols somewhere in the political module, and this is how they decided to do it. And that's fine. It works fine, but it's my least favorite part of the game. So you have your normal cards that will let you lose votes for every symbol that you have. You also have cards like Garish Suit, which just always give you a megaphone because you're just in some super bright suit and people are like, oh God, I hate that. I'm not voting for that guy. And then a big part of Poliships is publishing papers, writing bills, things like that. And so a lot of the cards will have these papers at the top, and they will allow you to maybe get megaphones. They will allow you to lose votes. But then there's other cards that are specific journalists. Like this is a conservative journalist, this is a liberal journalist. So whenever you turn in a paper that is either conservative or liberal, you can maybe lose more votes. And then you can do things like go to the courtyard and give a slurred speech because you're out there like,
lizards aren't real.
And lastly, we all know that politics is fueled by alcoholism, and so you can always go and treat at the pub, and you can turn in multiple of these cards at the same time, and the more that you turn in, the more votes that you'll lose. At the end of the game, however many votes you have is your score for the political module, but we all know that politics is a journey, and the real treasure at the end of a journey is the friends we found along the way. So let's lose all those too. In my opinion, the social module is the hardest module in the game, but it also might be the most fun. This module is based around this social board where you have 4 of your friends, and your friends can either come like nice or outraged, and I think that's very funny. All of the actions and cards in this module will be based around moving your friends down these tracks, and that is representing you losing those friends as you're out there being just a big old POS.
Reginald, give some of your filet mignon to Frank here. He's better than you.
And you can do that by playing cards or by going to actions like this that allows you to move 2 of these pieces straight down. So I could move her down here and maybe him down there. Some of the cards and actions are more specific. Some of them only allow you to move down one column, like everyone in the red column. Sometimes they only move your male or female friends, and then sometimes it's just a generic one where you can move anyone. As you move down these tracks, on top of just losing friends, you're trying to do 2 separate things. You are trying to move down and land your friends on these symbols. Whenever any of your friends are on these symbols, you have those symbols and you can play cards to do things like lose money, votes, or move more friends. But once they move off of these symbols, you no longer have that symbol and you can't do that anymore. So you're maneuvering and moving your friends down this ladder, and you want to stay on these symbols as long as possible. And it's a huge battle within yourself because you want to stay there, but you also need to be losing friends, because if you don't, you're going to have a really high social score. And the other reason you're moving in specific ways on this board is because of Dame Beatrice. Dame Beatrice is a sweet old lady who is going to all your friends and talking you up to them, and that makes your social standing go up, which is bad, and this is why we hate her. We absolutely hate her. She sucks! So Dame Beatrice is talking you up all game, and every round you will have one of her tiles face up here, and on that tile it will tell you what certain spots on your social board are going to move back up, gaining you friends. In this case, you'll be gaining friends in red and orange, so any of your friends in that column at the end of the round, they're all gonna move up 1 space, which is brutal. It sucks. So in this situation, you want to try to get all your friends over to the yellow column because that's not moving up this round. Now you can get around Dame Beatrice. You can go to this spot right here to silence her. Before you ask, no, you don't kill her. Probably. But if you go to this spot, you basically just don't have to deal with her tile, but there's only one of those spots and everyone wants it. So it's a big like, oh, do I prioritize that? Ugh, Dame Beatrice sucks. The social module of this game is so hard. It's really, really difficult because you're trying to juggle so many different things. One, you want to keep your friends on those symbols so you can keep them, but then you always have to be paying attention to Dame Beatrice. There are some times where you're like, you know what, in round 3, I'm just not going to worry about the money module. I'm just not going to think about it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll do that next round. You kind of can't do that with the social module because Dame Beatrice is coming every single round, and so you always have to be thinking about it, and it's a really crunchy puzzle to navigate, and one that I really, really enjoy, but it is definitely the toughest part of the game. At the end of the game, your social score is where your 4 friends are on this board. So we have 2, 4, 0, so we're still at 4, and then -1, so we're down to 3, and that's our score. The last part of the game is this central board here that nestles in between the 3 different modules. This board has a couple different worker placement spots that you can go to. You can go down here, which will affect the turn order for the next round, and when you go here, you get to take one of these bonuses and get to do that action real quick. If you go over to here, you can get this Renaissance tile, which will just give you 2 symbols of your choosing. And the last place you can go is up here to get one of these cards. These cards are special in that these are the only ones in the entire game that will affect all 3 modules of the game, or maybe a combination of them, but it's the only place that does that because each module is completely separate from all the other ones. The game will end at the end of 5 rounds, and your highest score amongst those 3 modules is your whole score for the game. And that's the Prodigals Club. The Prodigals Club is tough. It's a hard game. This game is a challenge. It is a very tough puzzle that you have to manage throughout the game. In this game, you are constantly spinning plates. You have 3 plates that you are constantly having to spin and keep up, because if you don't, you're gonna end up messing up one of your scores, and then you're probably gonna get a really bad score for the end game. One of my favorite things in board games is the need to prioritize. I really love that struggle of what to do first, what to do second, what to do third. Ooh, I really need to do this thing, so do I go there first? Because if I don't go there first, Mike might take that spot, and then I'm gonna be screwed for this round. Mike and I have talked about it before, but we're not massive fans of huge interactive games. Games, particularly where you're interacting with each other. But the interaction that comes from worker placement is the kind of interaction that I like. I enjoy getting in each other's way, but I don't like to have to do it really purposefully. But sometimes I'm like, you know what, I needed to go to this spot. I'm not doing that to spite you. I'm not doing that to block you. I'm just going there because I really need to go there. And that's the kind of interaction that I like. And this game has that in droves, mostly because there's just not that many worker placement spots. You saw that when we were going through the modules. There's 2, 3, 4 spots in every single module, and that's it. And so prioritization in this game is really tough. In all of Suki games, but particularly in Prodigals Club, you will have a breakdown about halfway through the game where you're gonna be like, there's no way I can get everything done. And that feeling while you're in that moment isn't always the best feeling. It's actually really nice, because on top of that feeling of not being able to get everything done, you usually can. I've played this game a lot, and this game always finds a way to be close. Even though halfway through the game, you feel like you're lost, you feel like there's no way you're not gonna have a horrible score, but you usually end up doing okay, and the game usually ends up pretty darn close. And that balance is something that Vladimir Suki, I feel like, does very well, on top of fracturing your focus. This is a game where you have 3 separate games that you're essentially playing, and you need to do all of them as well as you possibly can. And that fracturing of your focus, along with the prioritization that comes in the game, is just a really good blend that I freaking love. The game also runs really smoothly. Everything you're doing in the game makes sense. Oh, you need to lose some votes? Oh, okay, here you can go make a slurred speech in the park. That would lose you some votes. And that integration between theme and mechanics is done so well that it actually makes the game easier to learn and easier to play, even though it's such a tough experience. And that really gets into why this is my favorite game. I love the mechanics, I love all that stuff, but the reason I love this game so much, and have ever since I first heard about it, is because of the theme. I love the Prodigals Club theme. It's just so silly and funny. It really just makes me laugh thinking that this game even exists. I regret that bit. But that's ultimately not why I love the theme as much as I do. The reason that I love the theme as much as I do is because it does something that I think needs to happen much more often in board games, and that is big, heavy games with light themes. And by light, I mean light-hearted. There are lots of heavy, serious games with heavy, serious themes, or heavy games with normal themes. But despite all that, there's not that many games that are big and heavy, but then have really light, even silly themes. And I think that's a shame. I want to make it clear real quick that I'm not saying that these shouldn't exist. This is great. I think that's awesome that these kinds of games exist. I just wish there was more light themes on heavy games. I think one of the best examples of why heavy games with light themes are so beneficial is actually Root. Root is a game by Cole Wehrle and Leader Games, and Cole Wehrle makes a ton of war games, and Root is no different. But Root does have one difference, and that difference is the art and the theme. Root is a game where you will take an asymmetric faction and you are trying to rule the woodlands. It is just a war game, but it has this really interesting, cutesy theme on top of it. I mean, again, it's kind of like vicious because a lot of the vagabonds like, ah, I'm a little vagabond. But like, ultimately, the art is very cartoony and fun and cute. And I think that's so important because of the fact that there are so many different people who would never ever try a war game, but they would try Root. And the reason is because of the theme and the art. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to have excellent mechanics to back up that theme and art, and Root does have that. It's the reason why it's continued to be so successful. But the baseline is that theme and that art. If Root was the exact same game, but it was just about like various European nations, I don't have any metrics on this, but I think it would sell like 1/10 the amount of games that it has. The lightheartedness of Root, I am guaranteeing, has gotten so many people into things like war games or coin games because that theme is so light and kind of silly and the art is so fun. That's a big deal. But there's another reason that I think it's really beneficial to have light themes on heavy games, and that's to do with breathing. Okay, I know that makes no sense, but hear me out. We need to talk about Mario real quick. Yes, we need to talk about this Mario. If you don't know, there is a whole other world of Mario games past the ones that Nintendo releases, like Super Mario Sunshine and stuff. Why did I choose Super Mario Sunshine? Nonetheless, there's a whole world of Mario called ROM hacking. There is a world out there where people will make entire Mario games and then give them to people to play. But people will use programs like Lunar Magic to make these Mario games. And these are full-fledged Mario games with worlds and lore and all of this stuff, and they are the same size as a lot of games like Super Mario World. But the main difference from Super Mario World is that these games tend to be hard. Really, really hard.
Should not have survived there. I changed run buttons and everything.
This level, we're in the snowy mountains. This level features ice physics, and one of the best things you can do with ice physics is be big and force the player to duck everywhere.
They are brutal. But what does this have to do with Prodigals Club and Root and all this different stuff? And that comes down to breathing. A while back, I was watching, I think, an interview with one of the people who make these ROM hacks, and they were talking about the importance of letting your players breathe. And having the game be nothing but brutal and hard the entire time doesn't actually make for good level design. You have to have a couple different spots where your players can stop for a second and breathe, or give them a really brutal part and then maybe a slightly easier part and then a really brutal part. Those spots to breathe are so important. It's what keeps people going in these games, because if it's nothing but brutal the whole way through, people eventually just get worn out and will end up giving up. Even if they could finish it, not having a place to breathe is not good. And I thought it was a really interesting concept, and it made me realize that that's why I like games like Prodigals Club so much. The theming of Prodigals Club allows you to breathe. Multiple times throughout the game, I find myself stopping, thinking about the mechanics and what I have to do, and just appreciating the theme and giggling about how silly all of this is. When you're halfway through the game and you're stuck like, oh my God, how am I gonna get all this stuff done? Okay, I think I'll play this card. And then you stop and look at it and realize you're slapping this other person with a fish. And then you're like, he got hit with a fish.
Or you do what exactly? Hit me with that fish.
And that moment where you stop and kind of giggle to yourself about what's actually happening in the game is you getting a chance to breathe. It's like adding an easy part to a ROM hack level. It allows the players to stop for a second, not worry about the mechanics, and just appreciate the theme. And I think for games that tend to be on the heavier side, that's a really huge benefit. Again, not every game needs to have that, but I do think that it makes games like this so much more approachable and playable when you know you're gonna have those stop points. This is a game where you're spinning so many different plates and you are so stressed out about trying to get the lowest score you possibly can, but then you realize that the score you're trying to get is you losing all your friends and you trading in a prize horse for some trash-ass chef. And that's so dumb, and it's great. I think that levity makes this game so incredible and really makes it feel like so few games out there. I think that the Prodigals Club is the perfect mix between crunchy gameplay and light theme. And I hope that more games like this come out. I think it would really benefit the hobby, and I think it would get people into some heavier games that otherwise probably wouldn't. So, that's it. The Prodigals Club is the greatest game ever made for me. I love it more than I can possibly say. If you made it this far, we really, really appreciate it. Like we said, this is kind of a very different kind of video than we've ever done before. So if you did enjoy it, please, please, please let us know down in the comment section below. Please leave a comment. Please like the video. If you like this kind of content, let us know, please. It's the only way we really can tell if people like it is if you watch it, thumb it up, and leave a comment below. So please do. Love you all to death. Play Prodigals Club if you have a chance. Maybe you'll hate it. I don't know. But if you do, that's all right. You know, we can't all like the same thing. You're just wrong. It's the greatest game ever made. Thank you all for being here. Love you to death. We'll see you later.
Thank you so much for watching that very long love letter to my favorite game. We really appreciate it. Want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsors, Restoration Games, Board Game Geek, Garfield Games, and Artig Tables. And a big shout out to our month of January sponsor, Evan Diesel. We love you to death. We're supposed to talk trash about you. I just can't do it. You're just too dang handsome. Got him.